Welcome back to the County News Podcast. I'm Charlie Bann.
And I'm Nicole Weissman. And this week we're talking about economic mobility in alignment with a hot topic in the most recent issue of County News. Who did you talk to first this week, Charlie?
I talked to Supervisor Bruno Sabatier from Lake County, California. He's also the chair of NACo's Health Policy Steering Committee.
And you talked about the Lake County Food Policy Council, a committee dedicated to widening the markets for small and medium-sized farmers in Lake County. What's one thing you learned before we get into the interview?
I learned that Lake County is not suitable for large-scale factory farming, so a lot of the farmers there are on the smaller side, and they need a little bit of help finding wider markets for what they grow.
Can't wait to hear more of it. After that conversation, we've got another conversation with NACo's own Alseta Gholston, who's going to talk about NACo's Economic Mobility Initiative. But before that, let's get into your conversation with Supervisor Sabatier.
Supervisor Sabatier, tell me about Lake County, California.
Lake County, California is between Sacramento and San Francisco, about 2 hours, a little bit north in Northern California. We are a jewel of the state of California. We are surrounded by mountains with a beautiful lake in the middle, with a volcano that comes out of our lake, Mount Canocti. That is our central area. We are surrounded by nature, a rural community, and I love being here.
But when I think of agriculture in Northern California, I jump to wine. But what else do you have to offer up there agriculturally?
So agriculturally, we were actually really famous maybe about 80 years ago, over the last 100 years, for our pears. We were world famous for our pears, our Bartlett pears, but we actually had grapes before the Prohibition. Prohibition got rid of some of our wine grapes, but we've been coming back, definitely extending wine country into Lake County. We have about, 10,000 acres of wine grapes in Lake County. We are actually winning awards for that, but we have our pears, we have our walnuts, and those are our three major staples that we have here in Lake County. When you think of farming, a lot of times you're going to think of very large scale, like combine farming, where you see the machinery really doing all of the work. We definitely have machinery helping us out with the work, but our topography is so, there's not much flat land in our area, but it makes it really difficult for combine farming. So we are much more of a niche type of product than we are what you would find in the Central Valley of California.
Well, tell me about the Food Policy Council and how it came about and what you hope to accomplish with it.
So we've had many iterations of the Food Policy Council. Some of that came out, we had our local co-op that came out of there that really worked with our farmers markets and getting access to residents to the local foods that were being produced. We also have what's called our Lake Mendo Food Hub, which is a delivery system to enable farmers to access their clientele directly or to access stores directly and to really make that connection. And in this iteration, we're really looking at overall food production. What we're seeing is a reduction in our farmland really producing food, because unfortunately, food is not economically viable for a lot of folks unless you have large-scale land to be able to produce, which has been great for us when it comes to grapes. It's been great for us because our pears have been world famous, so they've been able to continue. But we're just seeing a massive reduction in our overall food. And one of the things that made me nervous is we've experienced a lot of fires here in Lake County. And during the fires, we have emergency needs. And some of those needs are, how do you feed those that are evacuated? How do you continue to have trucks coming in when the roads access are being blocked because of major fires? And so my goal for this iteration of food policy is food sustainability. How do we produce more food that can be sold here locally so that both during our emergencies, we can be a little bit more self-sustainable, and during also climate change issues, which we've seen bread baskets throughout the world struggle to produce the staple that we're so used to them having. And these things are going to occur more and more. And so why not find ways to support our local farmers to produce food and connect them with a delivery system and markets to be able to at least make it economically viable. And so that's really been our focus. I have a philosophy in Lake County and many other rural communities. Poverty is an unfortunate ongoing conversation to deal with. And rather than providing help and assistance to help those that are struggling, how do we do economic development and economic mobility to really provide those tools to the individuals to be able to raise themselves up? Because government can only do so much, and we definitely can't do everything to make people deal with the poverty that we have.
It really seems like this is a matter of economic competitive advantage. Just trying to find a way to fight above your weight, despite the size of some of these farms.
Right. And so it was actually really interesting how this first started. I was like, let's meet with the Farm Bureau. Let's meet with a couple farmers. And so I sat down, and my first comment was, I want more farmers to produce more food. And they both looked at me, and I was completely just baffled. They're like, no, that's not going to work. Our farmers are struggling enough with the supply that they create. Start with markets, which when they said that, I was like, of course. If I create the need, our farmers will fulfill that need and maybe see the reason to expand. And so this food policy has really put us together. We have our hospitals, our schools. They're part of the process. Our grocery stores, they're all part of our committee to meet and discuss. And we are making direct connections to bringing food, not just to the patients at the hospital, not just the students at the schools, but to their employees as well. It's expanding further than I had imagined. And we're already making some of those connections directly right now. And so it's been a really amazing process in our conversations and what happens at the table.
It's pretty encouraging feedback this early in the process. How long has the Food Policy Council been active in this forum?
So we've been active in this forum for about a year. I wish we would have gotten a whole lot more done. I'm a very impatient person. But we have a very robust strategic plan that we have finalized and gotten approved by the Board of Supervisors. Within that strategic plan is to creating cooperative processing plants, whether that's processing animals and cattle, processing foods that is being produced in our farms. We want to provide the facilities so that our farmers can add value and not just have that raw resource, because you add value, it really creates a better economic advantage for our farmers.
They put your stamp on the product.
Exactly. And so that's part of our strategic plan. The other part is also workforce development. A lot of our farmers, I think from what I understand, that the average age of farmers throughout the United States is about 55 years old. And we have to engage our youth in order to really have a future in agriculture, rather than it being such a centralized market where it's only 10 different corporations that are making the food for everybody. I want to know the name of my local farmer. I want to go to my local farmer. I want to buy chickens from them, eggs from them, and also vegetables and fruit. And so to me, and it's really funny, I went to a NACo conference. It was the legislative conference last year, I believe. The Secretary of Agriculture was speaking to a room full of people. And as he spoke about the focus of USDA and the agricultural department, I felt like he was talking about my program, about decentralizing food production, bringing it back into the community, and creating the infrastructure that was needed in individual communities to be able to be sustainable. And it just felt so rewarding to hear somebody at such a high level speaking specifically about what I was looking to bring, what we as Lake County are looking to bring into Lake County. It was a great connection. Yeah. And it was inspiring. Be in that room going, I'm not the only one. Lake County's not the only one. This is something that everybody should be focused on, because the federal government wants to give us the funding to focus on those things. And I mean, you and I both know there's a lot of subsidies that are made available through the federal government. There's even state subsidies. For example, the state of California has the Williamson Act. I'm not sure what that would be called in other regions of the United States, but it's basically to help with the property taxes and reducing them, almost eliminating them. If you're doing agriculture, we see that as a overall public benefit. And so there's subsidies that are providing through that. But it's difficult to access a lot of these government programs and subsidies when you're a small farmer, because there's already so much that you're doing by yourself. You don't have maybe your own accountant. You don't have your own HR department. Like, it's just you're doing everything. And that can be a lot on somebody's plate to try to do government type paperwork in order to access these programs. How can we help out in a much more cooperative way so that all of our farmers can access that here locally through one pipeline rather than individual pipeline of their own?
A capacity issue is something we hear from a lot of rural counties just because of the size and staffing they have. And if counties who have personnel that deal specifically in paperwork don't have the capacity to fill out grant applications and follow things up, I can't imagine a farmer who's got to spend most of his or her time just doing the work alone. Getting into some of these programs is just it's a barrier too much.
Yeah, and I'm reminded of outgoing President James Gore. His comment would be death by 1,000 grants. Because one is not going to be enough. And again,
you got to cobble it together.
Yeah, and regulations are part of our focus as well in our strategic plan. We have local regulations, and if we don't review those, the question that we have, and it's not to say we're not, but the question we should always ask is Lake County friendly to agriculture? We call ourselves an agricultural county, but do our rules and regulations that we have created, are they friendly to the farmers themselves? And we need to ask those questions. So, for example, one of the things that we're looking to change, we have certain setbacks from our highways that are called scenic corridors. And within those scenic corridors, it was decided a while back to no hoop houses. There was the scare that people were going to grow cannabis in those hoop houses because that was a problem we were dealing with. There was a scare that, hoop houses can go bad and look really awful and unkept. And so we wanted those scenic corridors to be left looking really good. But at the same time, what we're having conversations with these farmers, we're finding out that we have the extreme weathers. We know we get snow here from time to time. We also get extreme heat. If you have a greenhouse, you can extend the seasons and allow our farmers to produce more for a longer period of time, which automatically enhances their economic viability of being a farmer here in Lake County. So we're working on some of those small little changes here, as well as reviewing what can happen at the state level, because there's a vast difference between your local farmer and your farmer that sends stuff overseas and all throughout the United States. How can we give a leg up on our local farmers who are involved in a local community economy versus those that have a bit of a leg up and they've already had access to the rest of the nation and the rest of the world? What can we do to really separate the rules and regulations for that?
No, it seems like this Food Policy Council, while it seems pretty niche, it's also going to involve a lot of the county as a whole. Who sits on this council? What kind of representation do you have, and what perspectives are they offering as you figure out how to best elevate the agricultural sector?
So I'm going to try my best not to miss a seat member, because that would be rude of me. So we have our local food bank because we think it's important to have our farmers having a collaboration with our local food bank during emergencies. How can we work together? We have our farmers market manager, or a farmers market manager. We want to make sure that the food being grown is also being accessed through farmers markets because they are a great community asset. We have our grocery store. We have hospital. We have a school district. We have local farmers are on there. I believe we have 2 seats for our local farmers. We have the Farm Bureau, our Ag Commissioner. Red Cross is also part of this because Red Cross is really into the creating sustainability within communities, especially during the emergency time. They're happy to help during your emergency, but now their philosophy has really been turned to how do we create sustainability so you don't need us as much, and that's greatly appreciated. So they're at the table. And then we also have a spot, and I'll just be honest, we failed to really, we had a member that was on the seat, but we weren't able to really navigate through getting them always at the meetings. So we're trying to reach out for more. We have a seat member for somebody that's related to our local Native American tribes or just Native American heritage, because for thousands and thousands of years, our Native Americans, brothers and sisters in Lake County, survived off the land. And so instead of trying to create this sustainability plan based on just this new age version of agriculture, how can we bring back some heritage agriculture where maybe we're using our acorns a whole lot more because we have oak trees everywhere and everybody walks by this food supply every day without recognizing that we're surrounded by food. So we really want to implement the Native American heritage within our process as the Food Policy Council because it's important. And I will say there is one missing person in this that I haven't talked to you about. They are our lead agency that has really helped put it together, has spent their own money to help us out. And to me, it was the missing piece where I really needed them to help me just put all this together. And that was, we have our local hospital has contracted with Blue Zones to bring them into our community. And I've requested for them to come and be the lead agency for this. They are the ones who brought us their professionals to help us in our strategic planning. They are the ones who are seeking out grants for us so we can start developing the infrastructure that we need. They have been one of the most useful engines. We are not going to call it a Blue Zone Food Policy Council, but we are going to use their support in order to grow something that can last lifetimes and generations as we complete the work that we're doing.
In addition to your work in agriculture and rural affairs in Lake County, you're the chair of NACo's Health Policy Steering Committee. How does that fit into what you're doing at home?
So that is absolutely a reason why I'm part of the chair. Is our health metrics in Lake County are 56 out of the 58 counties in the state of California. And access to nutritious food and just overall what you put into your body is the first step to good health or bad health. And the more we can help to produce quality local food that hasn't had to travel 3,000 miles or that has been processed a whole lot, the more our communities can have access to very healthy things that helps you fight for better health within. The more you have the right vitamins, the right nutrients going into your body, the more you're going to be able to deal with the viruses that you're surrounded by or whatever. It'll strengthen your system. And so to me, food is one of the first and foremost things we need to solve, because if we try solving the hospital situations to make sure they're providing it, it's already too late. You're already sick if you're going to the hospital. So to me, the Food Policy Council and the Health Steering Policy Committee is absolutely hand in hand, because quality, good food is one of the main things that are going to help you to have better health. In fact, in our Health Policy Steering Committee, we talk about food as medicine and the fact that Medicaid has provided the ability for doctors to prescribe healthy food and specific diets, and that it can be repaid for through the Medicaid system. And our hospitals and Blue Zones and Food Policy Council are talking about how we can implement that in Lake County as well.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. I appreciate the invite. I always love talking about Lake County, and our Food Policy Council is one of the most exciting things we've got going as far as the work that I do.
That was Charlie's conversation with Lake County, California Supervisor Bruno Sabatier. Next, Charlie talked to Alseta Gholston, who works on NACo's Economic Mobility Initiative. She talks about a lot of the great programming that group is doing, but if you're looking for my personal favorite, hit up NACo's website and look for the Economic Mobility Resource Hub, which I know she'll talk about, along with a number of other great programs. Let's go to that conversation now.
Well, Alseta, thank you for joining us. Tell me about economic mobility and NACo's work in that field.
Sure. So economic mobility, I guess just to briefly define it, it's really looking at how an individual or a family is able to climb up the economic ladder within their lifetime, and usually is applied in comparison to previous generations. So the idea that you want your children to succeed or do better than you economically is kind of the idea behind it, so that each generation residents, people have the opportunity to do better than their parents, to be able to increase their income and their asset building. So that's essentially what it is. Economic mobility has a lot of direct correlations to where social or economic systemic impacts within a community. And so some of the work that we do here at NACo is to really help county leaders think about what are some of the supports that they can implement within their communities that will help people to achieve economic mobility, and thinking about removing some of those systemic barriers that may impede that for some members of their community.
What are some policy changes that counties can enact to achieve those goals?
So there's a few things. Economic mobility really can be affected by various different policy strategies. So whether that's housing policy, whether it's education and workforce development, whether it's community investment, all of these policies from across the gamut really can affect someone's economic mobility. Transportation is another one. So what we have seen counties really take a proactive approach in are areas like around increasing childcare for workers, transportation policy, housing, creating more affordable housing, and also housing that is specifically around an economic opportunity, housing that is around transportation hubs where people can have access to the high opportunity areas within the community. So it really depends on what the needs of the community are. And that's something that we help each county leader walk through. What are the specific needs of your community members? Who is most impacted by any barriers that needs to be addressed? And how can you work with your community, engage them to come up with solutions that will work for everyone?
What are some of the aspects of this job that motivate you and excite you about what you do?
I really enjoy hearing the work that's how impact is being shown on the ground. So really working with a county leader and starting from like the very basic discovery in what is the data saying, and really helping them to go through that process of, this is something that I know that I can solve for my community, and helping them to kind of work through those solutions with their community and see how these processes are making their communities stronger, and then really being able to identify the impacts as a result of that work. So I think that's exciting for me, and I think that's one of the values of being a part of NACo is that, we're really leaning into these types of technical assistance and learning cohorts to really help county leaders to be stronger in that.
What are some of those opportunities that NACo members have to get involved in communities, cohorts, opportunities to think about these situations with their peers and plan what they're going to do in the future for their communities?
Yeah, so I can tell you right now, we have our Counties for Economic Mobility initiative, which involves 3 learning cohorts. We have our Counties for Housing Solutions, which includes a very brief 10 to 12-week technical assistance sprint to really help counties identify public land that they can build affordable housing on, and there's a whole curriculum. We work with our consultants to help counties think about reforming zoning laws and things of that nature to really be able to look at housing as a solution, or one prong of a solution for economic mobility. Then we also have our Rural Leaders for Economic Mobility cohort, which is a longer 18-month sprint technical assistance opportunity where we work with rural county leaders. And these are our counties with populations of 50,000 or under. Mm-hmm. And we help them to draft a mobility action plan. So we're really starting from soup to nuts, helping them to look at their data, collect data, identify what that is, and to identify solutions that will help their whole county. And then we have our Leadership Advisory Council, which is a council of elected officials that we've been working with, and they have participated in a prior iteration of our economic mobility initiative. And so they kind of have a background of already thinking about economic mobility and what that could look like in their counties. And they are providing as advisors to our other two learning cohorts, but they're also, building the capacity to be able to champion this work and speak about economic mobility to their peers and to other county leaders.
Sounds like there are a lot of opportunities out there.
Absolutely. We also have an economic mobility resource hub on NACo.org where we are updating with tools and resources and information that any NACo member, county leaders can rely on for resources and to connect with us for other ideas and support that they may need.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for the County News Podcast. You can access all those resources and more at NACo.org.